Hello, everybody. This is DogmanCams.com, and I'm your host, John Bell. And today we've got a very exciting show for you with our guest Abe. Abe, why don't you give us a brief bio on yourself so people can get to know a little bit about who you are, and then go into your encounter and share as much detail as you can remember.
Yes, my name is Abe Sears. I'm from Texas. I live in Central Texas. Where I had my encounter was in Killeen, Texas. Prior military. I am 51 years old. I had my encounter back in 2015 when I lived in Elms Grove State Park in Killeen, Texas.
Okay. Why don't you go ahead and explain your encounter and the best you can remember for the audience.
Yes, I had several encounters there, but the main encounter I want to talk to you about was when it was one evening. It was late night, like around 3 in the morning. I was asleep. Uh, my sister came into my room saying that there was a woman yelling for help. So I went outside. I was in my boxers. Went outside, and I could hear a woman yelling for help coming from the vicinity of the park where I live. There's a park within the park, the mobile home park. So I went back inside. I put on my pants. It was around this time frame in November when the trees are falling. The leaves are falling, and I put on my warm ups and I grabbed a wooden bat that I had in my room. So I went outside and I proceeded to follow the sound of the woman yelling for help. Uh, my sister stayed in the mobile home, so I started following the noise and I went towards the park. As I went towards the park, I passed the swing set, a couple of oak trees, and I was by the swing set, standing there as I continued to hear the woman yelling for help, and it sounded closer. So I started following the noise into the woods where it was coming from. As I was walking this path that's there, it's a path that's probably like I would say 4 to 5 feet wide. You can actually walk in there. It's like an L shape. So I got to the bend where the L turns, and as I turned, I didn't have no flashlight. I was just following the woman crying for help. You could hear the woman yelling for help very loud. So I grabbed the bat and I started getting nearer to her voice, where she's yelling for help. As I'm fixing to swing the bat, as I feel that I'm very close to her, the crying for help just stops. So there I am. It's probably like by the time I get there into the woods, it's probably like 3:05 in the woods, and I'm looking to see if I see any kind of movement, uh, or if I hear another cry for help. So as I'm looking, I don't see no movement. I don't hear no cry for help. So as I'm scanning the area, it was kind of pitch dark, but in a certain area you could see towards the bridge. There's a club there, but there was nobody at the club. It was closed. You could just see an empty parking lot. So at that time, it was like, well, to me, I felt that something wasn't right, something was wrong. I felt like if I got lured in there. So when I turned around slowly, that's what, because I was still scanning and I felt something. When I turned around, that's when I seen six. I could see their silhouette, six creatures. To me, they were creatures. They were real tall. I'm thinking they were dogmen, uh, because as tall as they were, the closest one to me was, I would say, around 6 feet away, right there by the tree. I could see its white glowing eyes, and it was huge. That it was so huge that I dropped my bat, because there's no way that I seen how big it was that I was going to do nothing with a bat to this creature or being, whatever you want to call it. So as I'm looking at it, then I see the other ones that were probably like a 5 meter intervals. There was two other behind him on the right side of the path. As I looked to the left, I could see three more. glowing eyes on the left side of the path, and they were standing in like 5 meter intervals also, but they were a little bit further the ones to the right. And I had three options. One was run probably 10 feet into the wood line into the creek, but within myself, I said that's a bad idea. So then I had another option, probably around like 30 feet to my left towards the highway, but that was going into the woods before I got to the highway. So I felt that the numbers were stacked against me, that they would have probably chased me if I ran. So the only option I had was to go down the path that I traveled in there, because that was, to me, that was the shortest route to get out of there and to make it home safely. So I I took my mind somewhere else. Try to ignore them, even though they were looking at me. Took my mind somewhere else. I started going into prayer, and at that time, I couldn't smell nothing because I had a cold. But the only thing I could, and there really wasn't. They were so stealth like that I didn't even hear them sneak up behind me. That I didn't hear no crackling of branches, no crackling of nothing, of leaves or nothing. So I just started walking back down the same path. The closest one to me, as I got parallel to it, he probably was like 3 to 4 feet away from me. That he could probably, as tall as it was, there were like that one looked real tall. I would say between 8 to 9 foot. I would estimate, because he was looking down towards me. I'm 5'11", and it was so tall that it was just looking down towards me. So as I was passing him up, I could see it moving his head, and as I continued down the path, I could see the other ones moving their heads too, along with me. So I just continued to ignore them. I never turned to the left or never turned to the right. I just kept on looking straight and going through the path with I guess you could say no fear. Um, as I was walking and turned the bend, I could feel there was the one that was to the farthest on the left flank. I felt like it was right behind me. And as I was walking, I never turned around. I never turned back. So I just kept on praying within myself, took my mind into a, I guess, a safe haven. Everybody's got a personal haven when they go into prayer. And to me, my personal haven is when I go into prayer, that's my safe haven. So I took myself to my safe haven through prayer, and I managed to make it out of there safely. As I walked out the path, I continued to walk past the swing set, the slide, past the oak trees towards my mobile home. As soon as I got to the mobile home, I went straight to the restroom, took my clothes off, and jumped in the shower to get the scent of fear, or possibly the scent of whatever was out there. I was trying to lose the scent of whatever was out there. I didn't want it to follow me to my home, but most likely, those they probably know where I live, because I had several incidents afterwards. But that's what happened to me there in Elms Grove State Parks, uh, mobile home state parks in Killeen, Texas. Um, it was an experience that I'll never forget. After I had encounter the following day, uh, I went with my nephew back in there because I wanted to find out if a woman was harmed there. I wanted to see if I could find maybe like a shoe or her clothes or her an item that belongs to her, lipstick or makeup or an ID. I went there searching with my nephew the following day, and I gave him my cell phone so he could take random pictures. And I was searching for marks. I went to the trees where I seen this 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 creature standing. I could see their silhouettes. They were real tall. On my left side, the ones that were left, there was some that were like in attack mode. There were one was like medium crawl, the other one was like ready to attack. It was like low crawl, like ready to leap in some kind of way, because there were not, those on the left side wasn't standing up compared to the ones on the right side, the ones that were like, real close to me. Um, I went back and I was trying to see if I could find any marks on the ground or any broken branches, something, and I didn't find nothing. But my nephew that was taking random pictures, In one of the pictures, when we got home, I was reviewing the pictures that he took. Um, he did find something within the picture, and you could see something standing by the tree on the left flank, and it was looking at me because I was in the woods searching, and it was looking at me in the picture.
Hmm. Do you still have the photograph?
Yes, I got the photograph.
Is that something you could email at support at dogmancams.com?
Yes, I can email it to you. I have the picture also on my site, Positive Spiritualist, and on Spiritual Encrypted Encounters. I have the picture. Matter of fact, it's on my Spiritual Encrypted Encounters site. I have that picture that my nephew took. You could actually see it standing there, looking, you know.
Right.
And this was the one with the fur, reddish fur.
Okay. You said that was positivespiritualist.com?
Yeah, Positive Spiritualist. No, it's on my pages are on Facebook.
On
It's a
Facebook.
site
Okay.
on Facebook. Yes, it's Positive Spiritualist is one of them, and then the other one is Spiritual Encrypted Encounter. On Spiritual Encrypted Encounter, that's where I have that picture as my uh, on my page. That picture of that encounter.
Okay. On the spiritual cryptid encounter, what is that on? What platform?
It's on Facebook also.
That's on Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, the one that has a lot of pictures is Positive Spiritualist because that's the one I created to document everything that was happening to me because there was so many events that happened.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, if you could send a picture of that to support at dogmancams.com. That'd be great.
That'll be no problem.
Um yeah, I tell you that's a frightening story. So just to recap this and so I have it straight in my head. So you get woken up about 3 in the morning by your sister saying that she's hearing this woman screaming, and you hear the screams at that point as well.
Yes. When I stepped outside, I could hear her yelling for help.
And describe what that sounded like.
Well, it sounded like a woman that was in danger, like she was fighting for her life. It sounded very eerie. That it was sounded so scary that it scared my sister. She didn't want to come outside.
Right.
Uh, and she knows that since I was in the military, I was in the military 10 years. I've been up in the front lines during Desert
Right.
Storm. That I'm not afraid of things are not going to scare me that easy.
Right.
Uh, that's why I went to help.
Well, yeah, running off with a baseball bat in the middle of the night in the woods. Yeah. um. So, and when you heard the woman screaming, could you make out any specific words she was saying, or
The only thing she was saying was help. That's I mean real loud. It was she was saying it so loud that it was echoing through the park.
so she was saying help really loud, and that's all, and
Yes,
she just kept repeating help, help.
help, help. She would say help and help me, help, help me. That's what I would hear. Help me. Uh, so I just kept on following the sound. And I was walking pretty fast because if she was, I was trying to save her. Whatever was happening to her,
Right.
I was trying to get to the scenery to assist her. You know, that's why I went in there with no flashlight because so that if there was somebody doing her harm, I was there to help her out and try to fend off whoever was assaulting her,
Right.
surprise them.
Right.
Uh,
So, and so when you got to but you believe you arrived at the location where you were hearing the screaming coming from, or
oh
approximately.
yes, I was right there. I mean, as I was walking maybe 2, 3 feet away, I could hear her yelling real loud beside me. As I was fixing to swing the bat, that's when the yelling stopped.
Right. And then as soon as you got to that spot, that's when you started to realize you started to see silhouettes at that
Oh
point. What made
no, it,
what
it
made
was
you stop?
as I was looking, scanning the area to see if I could see any kind of movement. Any. I was looking to where I'd heard her yelling for help, and I was looking to see if I could hear her yell at least one more time to see if I could see her move or see if I could see somebody there. But I was looking forward. It's when I turned around after I couldn't see no movement. When I turned around, it's when I seen the one closest to me, which was like probably like 4 to 5 feet, maybe 6 feet away, he was right there by the tree, right behind me.
Right.
And that's when I knew that I kind of was set up. I mean, I already had a feeling something wasn't right when I didn't find nobody in there.
Right.
But it was when I turned around, I already had the feeling something wasn't right. But when I turned around, that's when I really thought to myself, man, I just been set up, you know, because I seen the first one to the nearest, the closest one to me. I got a real good look at it. It was, like I said, real tall, 8 to 9 foot. Uh, and it was looking down towards me, and I could see its white glowing eyes. I could
And
only see the silhouette because that path. I got a picture of the path. There's trees that go over the path like a hallway. You know those hallways like at church or where the trees cross over each other. So that path right there is kind of dark because
right.
of the trees covering the sky.
And what was your reaction when you realized that it was a trap and what you were actually encountering?
But like I said, when you're in a situation like that, your mind thinks real fast because you're placed in a situation. Uh, some people, I would say I was scared when I seen them, but at the same time, I couldn't worry about how I felt. I had to worry about what I was going to do to get out of there safely. But when I seen 6 of them, I said to myself, well, when things cross your mind, one of them was like, am I going to make it out of here alive? I have my son waiting for me at the house. That was one of them. But then at the same time, I'm telling you, I'm prior military, been in combat. My military instinct kicked in, and it's like, no fear, Abe, no fear, no fear. So that I know about no fear is go to my safe haven place in which I went into prayer and call upon a higher power to come and intervene in the situation I was in. I'm a spiritual person, and I believe we all connect to spirits, and all spirits talk to each other. Even animals can talk to humans. So I had to take myself there and not worry about what I was seeing with my eyes, but focus on fighting through the spirit.
Right.
And that's why I went into prayer because I know I wasn't going to be able to do nothing physically. 6 to 1, no way. Even 1 to 1, no way, because they were so massive. Uh, but spiritually, I can show them that my spirit is strong, and uh, and
Right.
I think and I think that's why they kind of didn't do nothing to me. They knew they could sense my spirit also, just like I sense their spirit. They sense my spirit, and I showed my spirit. I train my senses daily, and I believe that's what helped me is this spirit. I took it to a different place, and not worry about what could happen to me, but worried about uh, going to the safe haven place where I prayed and to get out of there safely. And I believe these creatures, as I was walking out of there and not paying attention to them, ignoring them. I mean, they're probably looking at me like, man, this guy, you know, he's not afraid of us, even though we show ourselves or presence to him, he's not afraid of us. He's coming to us. So I'm thinking that right there might have helped me get out of there safely. I'm thinking if I would have took up running, because that's what my instincts wanted me to do. If I would have took off running into the creek, they would have chased me. If they would have took off running to the freeway to my left, 30 meters away, or 30 feet away, should I say, they probably would have chased me. 6 of them. I wouldn't have made it to the bridge, and I wouldn't have made it out of the creek. Uh, so the only thing I could do is, how should I say, take myself somewhere else. When sometimes people are coming at you in a negative way, and you have to ignore them and take your mind somewhere else, and not let their antics bother you. That's what I did. Even though I seen what I seen, I'm just glad that I made it out of there safely.
Yeah, I'm glad you made it out there safely as well. Well, it sounds like that your military training, you helped discipline your mind, and you were able to control yourself and your thoughts even at that point, and then your spiritual faith side also you kicked in and also added with that. And it sounds like that's what saved you, because it seems to me that if these things were setting up a trap, and I have heard multiple stories in the past of similar situations where people hear either women crying for help in the forest, or even children sounding like crying for help and asking
Yes,
for help. And then when people go in there, they encounter something else. So whether it's dog man or something else, but
yes,
now these, to the best of my knowledge, these things aren't supposed to be able to vocalize. However, we know that they can mimic other animals and stuff, like Sasquatch
yes.
constantly will mimic other animals, and are also known to say your words back to you. They like to mimic and repeat
M-
anything they hear.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's one of the things that I noticed in an area. I could hear uh, coming out of those woods. You could hear people laughing in there. You could hear. There was a time where after my incident, my friends had left already. She had gotten married, left to Pennsylvania,
right.
and I was sitting on the park bench one night. You know, I had barely gotten off the phone for her. That she had made it safely to Pennsylvania and everything. So as I hung up the phone, I'm sitting there on the park bench, and next thing you know, I start hearing rocks banging in the creek, and then I could hear rocks flying, landing in the creek, and I'm like, well, it's probably a deer or something, you know, hitting some rocks and they're falling in there. But then all of a sudden, I hear my friends. Her name is Belle. I hear her say my name. Abe, it's me, Belle. That's what she said. And that's like, and I was like, I heard her. It was her voice. And I said, Belle, is that you? And then she said, well, what I hear, the voice, or said, yes, it's me. And then the voice says, come here. And she's trying to call me into the creek, you know. And I was like sitting there, and I was like, no, you come here. Sit down over here at the park bench with me. And next thing you know, I don't hear nothing no more. And then it's like, wait a moment, they can't be here. She's in Pennsylvania. And then maybe like 5 minutes later, because she had daughters that would come visit me, I had heard the voice of one of her daughters calling my name again, calling my name, but in one of her daughter's voice. And then it changed to another one of her daughters, and they were all calling me from the creek area. So yeah, I believe that you said that they can mimic voices, and they will come to that area to visit all the time. They like coming to the park, bringing the children to play, and I'm more sure that they mimic their voices, even though that wasn't there at the time that that happened to me. And that happened to me like around 11 o'clock. So the only thing I did is I got up and I said, you know what, it's time for me to go out of here. So as I was walking back up the street towards my house, I could hear a loud laugh echo through the park, and it was coming from those woods where I had my encounter of the six dogmen or whatever it is that was in there. Uh,
Right.
yes,
Yeah, it begs the question too. Dark Waters was listening in the chat and asked the question: Is there? Do you know if there's any kind of witchcraft that goes on in that area, or any activity like that?
I believe of what I've seen. I believe there is some kind of activity there. It could be to me the area, whether it be Killeen area, Copper's Cove, Parker Heights, and Fort Hood itself used to be native land. Uh, and I believe what might be there is a possible shapeshifter. That's what I feel because you know how it can mimic a voice, it can take form
Right.
uh, of like a creature like that. You know, it's I should have said it's pretty amazing it can do that. You know, and uh,
I've heard stories from multiple contractors that said that they've encountered shapeshifters.
yes, and that's all I believe. What might be in that area, you know, it's that. Imagine how much of a threat a shapeshifter can be. It can shapeshift to anything that it wants, that is encountered over a lifespan. You know, it can turn into a Bigfoot, a dogman. It can turn into a bird. It can turn into a dog or to a fox. It can change it to any form it wants to. Since we're talking about that, there was a day that I stepped outside of my home, and I seen a fox. And the mobile homes are pretty close, so I seen a fox looking at me. And as I was looking at the fox, I was surprised that the fox did not run away from me, like it wasn't afraid of me. So the fox turned around and started walking away, and I started following the fox. It went around Miss Kim's home, mobile home. So as soon as I went around it, I didn't see a fox no more. What I saw was an old man, and he was slouched like a hunchback, and he was wearing a fur on his back.
Hmm.
So I followed him up the street, and I gave him a little bit of space, and he was barefooted. I followed him. He was walking up the hill. He took a left. I went up the hill and I seen him, and I was following him. I went to the entrance of the mobile home park. He went. He stopped at the stop sign and turned to right. So I was following him, and he was going. He passed this building called Embark, and and in that area there's nothing but woods. So I was walking down the pavement road following him, and he went around the bend. And there was a fence from the Embark, so I was following him. Was looking at him as he was walking. Then he turned around to the left side of the fence. So I turned. When I got to the fence, I seen him go behind a bush. So as he was behind the bush, I was like, well, maybe he's homeless or something, you know. So the next thing you know, from behind the bush, a a dog seemed like a Saint Bernard took up running behind a like Cujo, right? I believe that's a Saint Bernard. It started running from behind the bush where the man went to. As it was running. It ran behind another bush. So I'm waiting for the dog to come up from behind the bush. Next thing you know, a bird flies from behind the bush. So as I seen it flying, it turned up in the air like it was coming towards me. I didn't see the man and I didn't see the dog no more. So I did the sign of the cross, and as he was turning to look like it was coming towards me, he just disappeared in the air.
Wow.
So I'm assuming what I might have seen, because like I said, I didn't see the man no more, and I didn't see the dog no more. That it might have been a possible shapeshifter.
Right. Well, in the first time when you saw those six, what you believe were dog men at that first encounter, that was obviously that situation. I would think would not be necessarily a shapeshifter, but you were actually encountering the dog
Yes.
men. But it
Or
seems like there could be
the,
multiple activity going on in this location.
yes, yes. I mean, you could see the silhouettes. You could see them. Man, and in that encounter, that's not the only encounter I had with these creatures. The first encounter I ever had, I didn't see no creature, but it was an incident that happened with my son at the park. He was playing. He was 5 years old. He was playing at the park with my friend's Belle's daughter. They're the same age, and they were playing on the slides. That was when I barely moved in there. I wanted to show her the park, that she could bring her daughter to play with my son at the park, and I was trying to show her the creek, by the main office. Uh, so we went to we were looking at the creek, and then all of a sudden we didn't hear them playing no more. I didn't hear them talking or nothing. So we went out of there and we're searching for them, and we can't find them. We went all through both sides of the park, and we can't find them. So I went back home and I asked my sister if they were there, and she said no, they haven't come over here. So then my sister came out there with us, and we were searching for them everywhere. So as we went to look back at the park, and I was looking, I just seen the top of my son's head in the woods, in that area, but in the woods, not in the area where the path was, but in the middle of the woods. I seen the top of his head. So I took a running over there, and I said, "Son, son," and they were just standing side by side, but it seemed like they were like in a trance-like state. I asked my son, "What are you doing, son? What are you doing?" And the only thing he said to me is, "The black man is calling us." So when he said that, I figured it was a person, right? So I was like, why would a person lure me into the woods? So I started searching everywhere. It's still day. It was daylight. I was searching everywhere, trying to see if I can find the person that we're talking to, but I couldn't find nobody in there, in the woods. That's when I brought him out of the woods. So the following day, my friend had a camcorder. Uh, so and this happened. This incident with me and my friend happened like in, I would say, 2000. My son was 5. It's happened in like 2006 or seven, somewhere around there. So we went back in there with a camcorder, and she had a camcorder. We're walking into the path, and as soon we didn't even walk like five, let me see, like 10 feet into the path, and she said, "Oh my God!" And she took off running. And as she was running, she said, "I think I caught something. I think I caught something." Right. So when we were reviewing the video, we put because it was a VHS. So we was reviewing the video. You could see where when she said, I think I caught something." You could see a figure by looking through the trees, and he was looking at her. It was like a dark figure, like my son described, a dark figure, and he looked like he had like an amulet around his neck, like a goldish amulet of some sort. As she said, "Oh my God, I think I caught something." You could see it go straight into the ground.
Huh. So
Straight.
do you have a picture of that?
I do not got a picture of that. What happened is when I tried to see if she could give me the video, she was so scared that she didn't want no bad uh nothing bad going to her house that she got rid of the video.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
I
she
can't
got
have.
rid of it. She said she didn't want nothing to nothing to happen to her, but events started happening at her house with this dark figure. Like you said, it could be many things that were there, but that was the incident that happened at the very like in 2006 with my son. You know, uh, then after that, after the encounter I had in the woods, it's like I was never the same. I wouldn't go back into those woods because I was didn't want to go through the same thing I went through. You try to not to go
Right.
through the same deals. So I went to sit on the opposite side of the park to see, make sure, hopefully nothing happens there. And I was sitting on a park bench with my nephew. He was talking about the military because he wanted to join the military. And as we were sitting down, there's a lot of oak trees. This giant oak tree branch broke behind us and landed behind the picnic table. As it landed behind the picnic table, there was a, a creature which looked like not as big as the ones that I've seen, but it had reddish fur. It landed right there beside me. He was like 6 feet away from me that I could see it. I could see how tall it was. He was taller than me, even though it wasn't as big as the other ones that I've seen. It was still tall, and he looked at me sideways. I didn't see no big snout. It was a shorter snout, and it took off into the creek. As it took off into the creek, I'm looking. You could hear the branches break and everything as it burst into the creek, and then all of a sudden you can hear branches break again as it came out of the creek, and we were running through the park to the opposite side where I had my encounter. I seen it run, and in the park there's lights. You could see it. You could see it run. You could see
So,
the lights.
what time of day was this when this encounter took place? Abe? Abe. Hello? Abe, I'm still showing you in the chat room online, but oh, and now I'm not. So Abe, if you can hear me, just try to connect right back on. Just follow that same link I sent you before and connect right back to us. So fellas, we lost Abe right when he was in a really good part of his encounter. We're going to give him a few minutes to try and see if he can call back into the show. These kind of technical issues, unfortunately, seem to happen and happening to me a lot lately, which is really annoying when you're trying to do a show for everybody, especially because we're already, 30 minutes into the show already. But Abe's encounter, yeah, this is a very scary encounter where he hears a woman's voice calling him in the woods, crying out for help, saying, "Help me, help!" Which to any reasonable person, we're all wired to try and see if we can't help someone in distress. So it it sounds, you know, I don't know, something crazy. You run into this thing, and he goes out there, and then the next thing he knows, he discovers that he's surrounded by these creatures, um, in the woods. And what do you do at that point? You know, and he said uh, he thought about. Looks like Abe's trying to connect back on. He thought about trying to run. Um, Abe, go ahead and delete your camera for us if you can do that on your side. So he thought about trying to run. Good job. I'm bringing Abe right back in.
Yes,
Hey, sorry about that.
that's fine. What it was an Amber Alert that popped in my screen and it cut the video.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, those Amber Alerts are important. That's for sure.
Yes,
I was just recapping the story where you had to make a decision once you found out, you realized you were in you were trapped by these creatures, whatever they were, and you had to make a decision on what to do. And I think, again, falling back on your military training and your faith, you made the right decision. In fact, I just recently heard a government type that claims that they deal with these, who recently said, if you encounter one of these things like this in the woods and you're unarmed and you don't know what to do, he said the same thing. Try not to make eye contact, and try to not panic, and try to ignore them as best you can,
yes.
and slowly walk away and leave the area. But that what strikes me the most about that situation is they called you in there on purpose as a trap. Then once you go in there, they just let you go. And if you had made any other move other than what you did, then you probably wouldn't have made it out of there alive. Are there any stories about missing people in that area?
Um, down that road, the main road, there's been a lot of accidents on the side of the freeways.
Okay.
But there was a woman. There was a woman that I remember. She would always come to the house. She was a Puerto Rican lady, and she would always come ask my sister for cigarettes. And she would cut through those woods to go to the store,
Right.
to go buy her cigarettes. Well, one evening, there was this guy in a trailer. He was going down that highway, and he said that this woman just ran in front of his truck, like she was running away from something, and that was it. It was too late. She died from the impact of the truck,
Of the
um,
truck.
of the truck. And that when they interviewed him, that he said that she it looked like she was running away from something. From
She was panicked.
yes, and
Okay.
uh, and I believe that she was running scared, and whatever was chasing her, she ran into the highway and she got run over. There, I would find I will find dog tails and cat tails in the park all the time, and
Really?
I was like, man, why is the management running over cats and dogs? But I
Right.
never thought that they were being eaten by something. I was always running into them, dead animals. I ran into I can't say a den. It was an open area where there's a pond, and I ran into me and my son were nature trail walking. It's a little bit further away from the area where I live, but it's in the same vicinity where the embark is. And as I was walking, I seen a lot of dead furs of animals,
Hmm.
just the furs, and I found it was a Doberman dog, or not sure the Doberman, a Saint Bernard, not Saint Bernard, the black and white ones. What are they called?
Oh, huskies. The
No, no.
Siberian huskies.
I think I think it is it a Doberman. The ones that they got fur and they have like black fur and white and brown on the stomach area. What are they called? All I
Uh,
know is
Dobermans are black with brown fur.
yeah, yes, a
The
Doberman.
Rottweilers.
Well, I found a Doberman with his spine ripped out of his back.
Wow. Did you take pictures of that by any chance?
No, I didn't take pictures. I literally got scared for me and my son because my son was small, and I said when I seen that, it's like, and I started looking around. It was in the afternoon, like around 5 or 6, and I said I felt my instincts told me to get out of there, because I seen all these dead animals just everywhere.
Right.
So I just got out of that area as fast as I could. Me and
Right.
my son, we got out of there, At that time, he was probably like around 8 or 9, maybe.
Right. And going back to the encounter that you were talking about just when we got cut off, because that was getting, yeah,
Yes,
really good. Can you recap that one real briefly for us again?
yes. As I was sitting down on the park bench with my nephew, we were talking about the military because he wanted to join the military.
And what time of
Uh,
day was it?
it was evening time, like around 9 o'clock.
Okay, 9 o'clock.
It was dark.
Mm,
It was fresh. Uh, and for some reason, it was always around this time frame when they surface up the most. But around November, October, November, in that time frame when it's fresh. Uh, as we were sitting down there, the oak tree branch broke, and it was a giant oak tree branch that broke a limb. And when it landed on the ground, something landed beside it to my left, probably like 5 to 6 feet away from me. And it was looking at me and then sideways, and I was looking at it sideways myself. Uh, I just turned my head to my left, and I was looking at it, and it was pretty tall. It was taller than me, not as big as the other ones that I've seen, but I could see the red fur on it, and it ran into the tree line that goes into the creek, and you could hear the branches break as it bum rusted, and then all of a sudden it came out of the creek again through like maybe I would say 8 to 9 feet in front of me. It came back into the park, and it ran towards the section where I had my encounter, but I could see it run, and I could see it the color of it because of the in the park there's lights on poles, and I could see it running towards the side of the
right.
park where I had my encounter with the six. Uh,
It, and also, you said that this one appeared different than the other ones you had seen. Can you
yes,
describe
yes.
that?
The fur was reddish. The snout wasn't as big to me. I feel like it was a younger one. It wasn't as big as the other ones, not as massive. Um, but then, like a year later, after those encounters, I figured maybe things would die down. There was another encounter I had right there by my mobile home. Um, what was happening is something was coming urinating on my doorways, on my
Hmm,
sliding door, and it was urinating on my front porch, and it was urinating on my vehicle, like it was marking its territory of some sort,
right.
and we were sitting. There was a flood that had happened. The creek rose, and the park bench where I was sitting down before, it had taken it into the woods. So the management, the new park bench is made out of steel, and this one that was made out of wood. So I grabbed it out of the woods, and I set it up in front of my house. They told me that I could have it. So because I didn't want to go to the park no more after those incidents. Um, so as I was sitting in front, I was talking to my nephew again about the military. I was trying to convince him to join. That would be good for him. And all of a sudden, he says, "Hey, Unc, I see somebody looking over Miss Evelyn's SUV. She had a white SUV, and when I turned my head, I seen something peek down. So we went, and I was like, 'Who's there? Who's there?' We thought somebody was trying to break in. So as went around the SUV, you could see something running in between the mobile home. But she had her lot was a little bit bigger than ours, so she had trees and it was dark, so I could see something running through there. It went out the back of her gate. So we went back to our yard and we was looking to see if we see anything from our side. On the other side of the street, there's like a lamp, and then all of a sudden you see something crawling low. First, it was high crawling on fours, and I looked at it and I said, "That's not a dog." And then I looked, "That's not a deer." And then it was kind of like low crawling, then went to a high crawl, and all of a sudden just stood up, and it was a one with a reddish fur, but this was bigger. I believe this could be a possible female. Uh, it was bigger, so it took off running down the street. So we started chasing it parallel to it from our street. Next thing you know, by the tree there was something else, and it wasn't the one. The red, I think the red one went a different route. But what we seen by the tree of our neighbors that live right behind us was one that was blackish and grayish, and that one was massive. That one was full of muscles. Uh, I believe that one was. I estimated to be as big as it looked. I would say 9 to 10 feet tall. Uh, the legs were muscular. The legs were inward. like canine-ish.
Right, like
Uh,
canine hawks.
yes, yes. But they were massive, like full of muscle. You could see they were ripped. You could see the muscle on this beast. The upper torso was long, and you could see the muscle of the upper torso and the arms.
Mm,
Then the neck was long, and then you could see the face. You could see the ears. Uh, but the snout wasn't too big. It was, I would say, medium size. And as it was in a run, like it was like actually like it was more of a leap. Like it will pounce and take a long stride. So my nephew was running parallel to it, and as we were running, and I was trying to run. I'm older, so I was trying to run behind my nephew. He was in track, and this thing, he was just running fast, and he was looking at us too, like through the side that we were following it. Uh, but by the time we got to the park, he ran into the wood line, most likely into the creek, or maybe even climb a tree. I don't know. But he left us behind real fast.
wow.
But it was massive. Uh,
How would you describe the face, other than the fact that you said the snout was about medium size? Could you make any other distinction, whether the eyes
the,
shine or the
the
teeth?
ears were
Ears.
pointy. I could not see the teeth, and I could not see his eyes because I could only see the side of his face. Uh,
Okay.
and I could see the ears. You know, when I see, I would say more like because like by the way the legs were, it would look like a like a werewolf of some sort, like in the movies. But it was huge, you know.
Right.
But the face, the way the ears were pointed, it's like it was hard to distinguish it from the side. I didn't really get a good look from the side. But the best look that I got at it was when it landed on the tree, and the red one. Uh, but they were big, so I just don't know how that how they could climb the tree. They leap on it, or there's a lot of people go hunting looking for traces on the ground to see if they can find footsteps.
Right.
But the encounter I had was on the tree when it landed
Right.
beside me. So I
Now,
don't know.
when that one landed beside you, was its legs? I thought you had said before its legs were different than the other ones you had
Yes,
seen. Is that
it was
correct?
a little bit different. Yes.
So the one that landed beside you had almost normal human like legs. You said
Uh,
where the other ones look more like canine legs. Is that right?
yes, yes,
And that was the one that landed beside you when the branch fell.
yes,
That had the shorter snout.
yes.
Okay. And could you make out its eye color at all?
No, I could not see a night color in that one. Like I said, there was lights within the park.
Right. And from the other encounters you had, especially that first one with the six, and you said the eye shine at that time was what the best you could make out,
It was glowing white in the darkness.
glowing white.
Yes.
And of all the other encounters you've had, have you seen different or similar or what?
Uh, the the closest look to the color of eyes was in the dark. How I guess they could see in the night. It was the white look that
Okay.
the white look.
Right. Okay. Yeah, boy, I tell you, this is a hodgepodge of nastiness that you've got going on here. Indians would say bad medicine.
Yes,
um,
brother. That's just a little bit that I'm sharing with you.
right.
There's a lot of other things that happen afterwards. I know we don't got that much time here. Like you said, an hour. Uh,
Yeah,
but
well, we still have about 10 minutes or so.
well, there was a other incidents that happened to me afterwards. After those encounters, what they were doing, they would come all the way to my house, and they'll be banging on the mobile home. You could hear them running on top of the roof. Uh, One of them threw a log through my door and broke my door. Uh,
Through a log through your door.
yeah, I had those logs that you put like for decoration. It
Right.
was thrown through my door. I had they would come pound on my mobile home, and my mobile had dents on the side, and and another thing, they would throw rocks on the side of my mobile home where I lived. So it's kind of like they was trying to get me to go out there, you know. So the
Trying
only
trying to
trying
bait
to
you out again.
yes, yes. So what I would do is I would just pray, you know, go outside, take some salt, place it around the home, and pray
Right.
for protection. Put some holy water.
That's
You
great. And now, did that seem to make any difference?
no.
No.
Uh, you could see him where I lived. You could see I have a good view of the park. I could see him running around in the park at
Right.
nighttime. You could see him running by the trees, running over there by the swing sets. You could
Well,
see their silhouettes.
there had to be other people in this park that saw these things, huh?
Well, at nighttime, a lot of people really. There was one lady, a Philippine lady, that lived nearby the woods over there where I met her, and she seen me cutting through there one day, and she told me not to go through there, and I asked her why, and she said because there's something there. I said, what do you mean there's something there? She said there's something evil there. Do not go through there. And she was telling me about an encounter that she had where she was picking up roses in the woods, and that this giant snake went around her and wrapped herself around her, and he started talking to her. And and I asked her, what did the snake say to you? She never said nothing to me. So at that time, I thought that it was just her, you know, her
Her, her being crazy,
imagination. But
right?
then there was one time that I seen her son. He was standing by the fence, and I said, "Hey, how you doing?" And he looked at me, and I could see like a yellowish, glowish. His eyes were like yellowish, like a glow. So I was talking to her son. I said, "Hey, how you doing?" He said, "My name is so," and he told me his name. He said he was visiting his mom. He was coming from New Mexico, and I guess he would do things for the natives, like a historian. And he looked at me, and he said, "Do you believe in?" He didn't say werewolves. He said the other name for werewolf. Um, was it liquor, liquor,
Like lycanthrope,
lycanthrope? Yes, yes,
right?
that's the name. That's the name that he said, lycanthrope. Um, as he said that to me, do you believe in that? And I said, I've heard stories. And he said, well, if you believe in that or you heard stories, do not go into those woods because that's what's there. That's what he told me.
So that's what the little boy told you.
Well, no, he wasn't a little boy. He was a man. That's what he told me,
Okay.
right?
Oh, her
So,
son was a man.
her
Okay.
son. So then they were moving, and I seen her son. Like a year later, they were moving. They had moved the mobile home, and he was there picking up the rest of the stuff. And I went up to him and I said, "Hey, how you doing, bro?" And he's like, "Oh, hi, my name is so and so." And I was introducing myself to him. And I said, "Hey, and I asked him, "Do you remember that time when you told me that there was like a lycanthrope or werewolf in those woods, not to go in there?" And he looked at me and said, "I don't know who you are. I never met you before."
Whoa. Whoa.
So,
Whoa.
and he's like, "I never talked to you about anything like that." So then the first thing that I thought was the yellow glowish eyes.
Right.
That maybe that what I was seeing was the shapeshifter itself that was telling me that.
Wow. Man, I tell you, your place is not the place to be for Halloween. That is for sure.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend anybody going into that area. Uh, I try to keep people out of there, but some people, they want to go and explore. But I wouldn't. I would try to keep the kids away from there. If I see somebody running around out there at nighttime, I'll tell them, "Hey, go to your home,"
Right.
because I want nothing to happen to them. You know.
Well, there absolutely seems to be some type of demonic activity or more that's going on. That seems to be somehow of a relate. People are always asking about a relationship between dog men and the supernatural, and where does that line blur between the physical and the spiritual? But they definitely seem to camp in the same places. That's for sure. And we're
Yes.
seeing. I think we're in a special time right now where the veil is being lifted in a sense, where where we're starting to see more and more things from the other side interact with us, and that's not a good thing. You know what I mean? But I'm glad you used your faith and took the precautions that you did to get out of that situation. When you talked about that encounter with your son, when you found him in the woods, and he said the black man was calling us, right?
Yes.
See, in a lot of cases, it's speculated that these creatures have the ability for something called infrasound, and sometimes with that infrasound, it can cause you to see and hear things that are not there. But it works as almost like a lure or a trap.
Yes.
Um, that I tell a story before. There's two guys on mountain bikes going through hills and woods and stuff, and one of them was a professional mountain biker and got a big lead on the second guy. And when they
Yes.
finally caught up to the first guy, he had stopped his mountain bike, which is like something you do not do when you're mountain
Yes.
biking professionally. And this guy had taken off all his clothes, folded them in a neat little pile on the ground, and was naked and was walking towards something. And this other mountain biker comes up to him and he says, "What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop! What are you doing?" And the guy
Yes.
said, "I'm really hot and I want to get in this creek right here to cool off." And he says, "Man, that's not a creek. That's a giant wolf that's growling at you."
Oh wow.
Yeah. And now, and
Yes.
then and then David Paulides with this 411, he says that there's now he's not a big advocate of the dog man, just to put that out there. But that said,
Yes.
he's done many cases where they have found missing persons where they take off their clothes and they fold them in a neat little pile, like they'll fold them up and
Well, you know
stack them
what?
up together.
I'm glad you're talking about that because there was a one of my nephew's friends. A brother was in the military. He barely come back from the new the Kuwait, the Iraq War, the new Iraq War, and
Right.
he came up to me. He was drunk, and it was nighttime. He come and asked, "You're the guy that says there's things over there?" And he said, "I don't believe you. You're full of shit." And I said, "Look, so you don't want to go over there? Take me right now. I'm going to show you. There's nothing there." That's what he told me.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Okay, let's go." I didn't want to take him, so okay, let's go. So we went right there by the swing set, and I said, "Where is it? Where you say things happen?" And said, "Right there." And I pointed. And then as he was getting close, he took off his clothes. He started taking off his clothes.
Hmm.
And he's like, "I'm not afraid of you." He was in his boxers. He had no shoes on, no nothing. He took his whole clothes off.
Right.
And he's like, "I'm going to go in. I'm going to show you that I'm not afraid of you." And you could hear something in there saying something. So as he got close to the edge of the wood line, he started screaming, right?
Yep.
He started screaming and he came back to me and he was bleeding from the wrist. He was bleeding from the armpit. He was bleeding from the jugular of the neck. He was bleeding from behind his knees. He was bleeding from his ankles.
Hmm.
And he grabbed his clothes and he took up running, scared. He just took up running. So as I'm there, you know, like 2 weeks passed by. He comes to my house and he tells me he was very, very sorry. And he said he told me that what happened to him there that night, he will never go to those woods ever again. He said that
Yeah.
what happened to him when he was out there in the war, that he did something. He tried to take his life, and those areas where he got the gashes
Yeah.
was the areas he was trying to commit suicide. So
Wow.
whatever was there knew his weakness.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And I'm glad
That's
you kind of brought that up because I remember what happened to that the soldier. He was
right.
he had barely ETS'd out of the military.
Hmm.
hmm That's what happened to him there.
Speaking of, there's a lot of stories about dogmen in Afghanistan and Syria, and
Yes,
in these. There's more and more stories that are coming. I've heard several. There's more and more stories that are coming to the light about these things. Recently, a friend of mine told me about some military drone footage where they said that this guy was on a motorcycle riding through the desert, and they were watching him on the drone for whatever reason. And all of a sudden, they say these two things came straight out the ground, grabbed this guy off the bike, and then disappeared. And the whole thing was caught on footage on the drone, on the military drone.
yes,
And you could clearly see what happened and what took place. And they said it looked like two werewolves. That's the way they described it, and in the drone footage. And they said they actually sent a team out there, and they said they still found the motorcycle still running.
yes. Uh, During Desert Storm, when I was in the front lines, and after the war, there was dogs out there eating human flesh. I was sleeping on the front slope, and I could hear something growling right there by my sleeping bag, and
You
it
mean
sounded
like
like a very loud growl.
you're talking about
So
like feral dogs or
yeah, the wild dogs that were out there,
wild
but
dogs? Yeah,
I remember seeing just a white silhouette coming towards me,
right.
and he was running towards me to attack me, and I fought it. But I did see other things out there, and when you talk about the country is a Muslim country, there's one creature that comes in mind, and it's
What's that?
something that can shapeshift also, and it's dealing with the jinn.
The gin. Okay.
And
So
I noticed a lot of the people that come from war from over there, they have an attachment on them. I had a friend that had an attachment on them, and I believe it's dealing with the jinn. And the jinn is like a shapeshifter. You know, it can shapeshift into many things. Yes.
okay. So there was lots of stories about the gin when you were overseas.
Yes, I would see things out there because I went back to Saudi area back in '95 to guard the borders, and I had an encounter over there with this gen like being. It was coming messing with me as I was asleep. It would come and pull my sleeping bag. It would come put his weight on me, and you know, at first I thought it was one of the soldiers playing a prank on me, but it was never. It wasn't that. It was I believe that the gen. Um, and I was just glad to get out of there. It got really, really bad that when they said it was time for us to come back to United States, I was just glad because it's like it wouldn't let me rest. I was getting attacked every night out there.
Right. Right. Well, Abe, that's going to wrap it up. I'm going to have to get going, but I want to thank you for coming on the show today. I want to thank the guest for listening in, and I want to throw out there to anybody, if anyone wants to share their encounters that they've had, feel free to contact us at support@dogmancams.com and let us know about your story. We definitely want to get these things out there and warn people about what's going on out there. But that'll be it for today. Hope to see you again here soon off the beaten path with dogmancams.com. Goodbye, everybody.